Hi everyone. I hope you're doing well today. Let's tune in to our second discussion about thoughts. We've already discussed that our mind is a tool, and a tool is used for specific purposes. In terms of the mind is a tool used to generate ideas, opinions, go through mental processes, interpret information, respond to stimuli, right? These are all ways that we can use the brain. But we can also use the brain to create a reality that we bring into the physical, aka manifestation. Now, for those who are interested and already know a bit about manifestation, we know that more than thoughts are required for manifestation, but we are in the thought section, so we're going to start here. But just another review, we are not our mind, it is a tool. We have many thoughts throughout the day, and we are the ones listening to the thoughts, not the thought itself. But as we start to observe and understand what is in our brain, we determine what's in our database and if we need some rewiring, yes, to either unplug from certain information or to gather new information, which I hope we're always going to do, right? Information is good. But what we will touch on today a bit more is the fact that we prompt our brain, right? And essentially, prompting the brain is choosing the thought that we want to entertain. Because we discussed before how thoughts can be seen as clouds moving in the sky. This is more of a technique when we want to silence the brain and not have it control us. But again, there are times where we want to pick up a tool. I was looking for a pencil. There's times where we want to pick up a tool and choose a thought to entertain or even create a thought itself, right? So when we choose that thought after becoming aware, because awareness is not enough, we choose that thought, and that thought can become our reality. Again, manifestation. I'll read us the definition of manifestation. It's very interesting because I researched this just on Google quickly, and I have two different definitions, so I'll read both of them to you. Maybe one will hit you differently. So, first Google definition says that manifestation is the act of bringing a desire, goal, or idea into the physical reality through intentional focus, belief, and action. It is the process often involving visualization and positive thinking to align one's mindset with a desired outcome, widely viewed as turning thoughts into tangible results. Super cool, right? AKA, we can create a reality in our mind that can come into the physical. And, even the idea of bringing something not real into the real, into real life, that understanding in itself shows us how important thoughts are. It's not that just thoughts are not real. They're actually so real that they're creating our reality. And for those who are new to observing the mind, if you don't really understand the way your mind works yet, guess what? You can take a look at your reality and start to identify what you're thinking about, because thoughts manifest. They become your reality. So that's another way to observe the mind, is just to observe reality, your reality. I'll read you the second definition that I have here. Manifestation is the practice of bringing desires into reality, right? We think about our desires into reality through focused thought, belief, and action, essentially making something happen by aligning your energy and actions with your goals. It combines positive thinking with purposeful, intentional action rather than just passively wishing for outcomes popularized recently on social media. So, the other portion of manifestation is the fact that, yes, we can use visualizing, right? Seeing ourselves at the new job or in the relationship or traveling the world. All of these general desires that we tend to have. And you can bring it into your reality. But visualization is not enough. You can bring something into your reality and actually miss it because you're not ready for it. We'll continue. I'm going to go through the list of definitions where I believe that the definition truly points out that the mind can be used for manifestation. So here we go. In philosophy, we see that the mind is abstract mental events that may represent a reality, right? You can create a reality in your mind. Beliefs or consciousness itself. Are you conscious of what you are thinking about? Because that, what you are concentrated on, that thought, can become a reality. Our mindfulness and spirituality definition tells us that thoughts are temporary mental events that arise and pass within awareness, but not necessarily the self. Small tangent. We've already talked about the fact that we are not our thoughts, right? But if you are the one listening to your thoughts and you're not the thoughts that you entertain become the self. Our linguistic view definition of thoughts tells us that thoughts are structured mental representations that can be expressed through language, right? We're having this mental representation, this desire, this thought that we want to bring into reality. Now, here's where it gets juicy, at least to me. Okay, so we have this desire that we want to bring in, and I already touched on the fact that we can use visualization to bring it into our reality, but are we ready for it? And again, we're just in the realm of thoughts at this point. And I want to talk about, right, that desire is a thought itself. But we have also other thoughts that need to be in alignment with that thought. Let's get into it. That specific thought that I'm talking about in this moment are beliefs. We have different beliefs that, if they are not in alignment with the reality that we want to create, that is in opposition to what we are desiring. So we're going to go through the definition of a belief. Again, I'm going to read you two definitions. But first ask yourself, what is a belief? Okay, so first definition, a belief is a mental acceptance. A thought that you accepted as true, or conviction that something is true, real, or exists, often accompanied by a sense of certainty. It serves as a subjective attitude or cognitive mental model used to interpret the world, which may or may not be based off of evidence. Okay, let's unpack that a bit because I want to see the definition. Okay, first of all, we are interpreting the world based off of what we believe in. I believe that I deserve this. I believe in this religion. all of these beliefs are not only affecting our thoughts themselves, but they can kind of screw up what we're trying to do if your belief is not in alignment. We will go through some examples to kind of help us with this. I'm going to read you the other definition. A belief is a mental acceptance or conviction that a statement, proposition, or idea is true, often accompanied by a sense of certainty. It is a cognitive construct representing a personal, subjective, or shared view of reality, including opinions, religious, or political doctrines, that an individual holds to be true regardless of whether objective evidence supports it. Now, the other portion of beliefs, I don't believe that you always need evidence for what you believe in. There's many things that we cannot see that we know are real. Let's take wind. You feel that, right? Okay, let's take sound. Sound impacts us quite a bit, but we can't see it unless, there's whatever. Okay, you get the point. Now, again, a belief is just something that you thought long enough, a thought you thought long enough, and now it's true. And the problem is that most of us haven't gone back and checked our beliefs to make sure we actually believe them. So let's get into some examples. What you believe about yourself. If you're trying to create this reality, if you don't believe you're deserving of it, when it comes in, you'll probably self-sabotage, right? I know. I believe that I am capable of doing this job well. Do you have the skills for that, right? And you can always learn the skills, but you still have to believe it and know it in order for that to come in so that you can actually achieve it, right? We can have many opportunities that come across our path, but are we ready for them is the question. And one way you can start thinking about this is when you're observing your thoughts. If you hear a not so nice thought about yourself, ask, is that coming from me? Who is the source of that thought? Because if you grew up hearing that you're not smart or you're not pretty or you're incapable, chances are you do believe that about yourself to this day. And that voice in your head, that belief that you have about yourself, that thought you thought long enough and now it's true. Do you see how when you're trying to achieve something, if you don't even believe it, you're out of alignment with it? You can attract it through thinking about it, but at the end of the day, you can't maintain it if you are not the person that would have said reality. Let's give another example. Religion. I don't say most, but many of us have a religion or don't. And chances are your religion is based off of your geographical location, your family. And think about this. If you've been hearing about, I'm going to use my most religious religion, but I'm very spiritual at this point and adopt many different religious practices. But let's say you've been hearing about Jesus since from 0 to 12, right? That is already a belief that you have before you even really had free will, right? Those are words that were spoken to you that you heard long enough, whether in the church, a family, or both. And now that is your belief. And because it's been who you are this whole time, you've never gone back and maybe read your text, lived by your text, challenged your text. But if you're seeing the world as in, I'm a Christian, and that is contradicting with something you want. I'm going to use a very controversial verse in the Bible, and not everything's going to be a conversation about religion. It's in the definition, okay? The point is, there's a verse in the Bible. I'm looking at my Bible. A verse in the Bible that says a woman should be silent in the church and submit to her husband. First of all, I believe that a lot of that is a metaphor, me personally, because I've dived into the Bible, I've studied the Bible, I've verified what I believe in the Bible, right? We'll never get into that. But the point is, first of all, I used to be a Bible study teacher. So if I truly believed that verse and I'm a Christian woman and I'm living by the Bible, then I would never be able to fulfill my desire of being a teacher. Even speaking in front of you now, maybe I wouldn't think that I'm capable of that because my belief as a Christian is swaying my view of what I think a Christian woman should be. And now I can't have my desire of teaching. Are you with me? And why our beliefs need to be in alignment with our manifestations. And by the way, just for those who maybe are new to the word manifestation, when I was first coming across this concept, I almost think of it like a prayer, right? You're asking for something that is still a thought that you're trying to bring into reality, that you're asking God to bring into reality. That is a thought that you're trying to make real, okay? Because I want to speak to everybody here. Everybody's welcome. Okay, so again, one way that we can go about doing this, making sure our desires are in alignment with what we believe, not only about ourselves, the world, religion, politics, all of that stuff. I'm not giving the politics definition because I'm not well versed in that at all, okay? I'm not. Okay, so when you think about what you want, that desired reality, that dream job, that dream relationship, ask yourself, what thoughts would I have in that reality? What beliefs would I have about myself in that reality? And ask yourself, do I really believe that about myself? And if you don't, you gotta start working on that and telling yourself that and believing that so that you can bring it into reality. So the one note that I want to say before we go, really quick summary, you observe your thoughts, you are not your thoughts, but the thoughts you choose to entertain become you. I'm adding that in. We also are being aware of our database, and the more new information you take, chances are it's going to contradict with something you used to believe about yourself, and it's okay to change. I was literally looking up the differences between like animals and humans and like the main differences, and we can reason. We have a cognitive ability to change, to make decisions. So to not use it is quite silly. And again, because beliefs, our next lesson is on the conscious versus the unconscious mind. Beliefs live in the unconscious mind. Hence, it's running as a program in the background. I am this way. I believe this. That because our day-to-day doesn't really require us to look at that, we kind of just have it playing on autopilot, but we don't realize it's filtering our reality. Again, we become aware of our thoughts, then we choose a thought. Every thought we entertain can become our reality, which is why it's very important to pay attention to what you are thinking about, what you are consuming, what is in your database. And the last note that I wanted to make is those who have gone through trauma, it is likely that changing your database is going to be much harder, right? You can only pull thoughts that are in your database, and those with trauma have data that is not so good, memories that are not so good, maybe even an environment that is still not very good. So you have to work even harder to change these thoughts, to catch them and say something different. Choose a different thought. Go listen to something else. Go hang out with new people. Get out of the house. Whatever you need to do to change your mind. Because again, if you've been hearing things about yourself or seeing the world in a way, you're believing that. And you need to start changing your thoughts and changing your reality so that it can bounce off of each other, right? Change your reality, change your world. Change your thoughts. Change your thoughts, change your reality. So I wanted to give that note for my people with trauma because I've been there. I'm with you, and you can do this. And I will make videos that talk about the perks of going through trauma. Please, nobody try to go through trauma. But, right, this is one of those steps where it is a little bit harder for us in the beginning because we didn't grow up with the best database to begin with. But overcoming is something that we can do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you in the next one that I already told you about. And yeah, bye.